Chapter 4. Temperance. When it comes to temperance, no one puts more emphasis on discipline and voluntary self-restraint than the Stoics. You must,
with mighty steadfastness, spurn both that which all men crave and that which all men fear.
The things we think are good and chase after, like wealth and fame, are not good. They are things which change from good to bad, and often cost us more than we gain. We must come to understand this and stop pursuing them. The things we fear, like poverty, bad reputation, solitude, disease, and death, are not evil. They are natural events which happen to everyone and are outside of our control, and therefore unable to harm us unless we harm ourselves about them. We must come to understand this and cease fearing them.
It is in the power of any man to despise all things, but of no man to possess all things. The shortest cut to riches is to despise riches.
This principle applies not just to wealth, but also to fame and relationships. Despise may seem a strong word, but Seneca is essentially advising us to scorn the role of fortune in these aspects of life. Stoics do not base their happiness on things that are subject to fortune's whims. They might have preferences, but at their core, they remain indifferent to things governed by fortune. So, in this context, despise means to remain indifferent to the object itself, while actually scorning the true adversary, which is fortune. Moving to more practical advice. If you have been pursuing the wrong things, what should you be seeking instead? Aim to acquire only what is necessary, and stop when you have enough. The more you possess, the more you will want. True wealth lies in having what you need and not yearning for more.
He says, "Contented poverty is an honourable estate. Indeed, if it be contented, it is not poverty at all. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. What does it matter how much a man has laid up in his safe or in his warehouse, how large are his flocks and how fat his dividends, if he covets his neighbour's property, and reckons not his past gains, but his hopes of gains to come? Do you ask, what is the proper limit to wealth? It is first, to have what is necessary, and second, to have what is enough.
Practice moderation in your daily essentials, such as food, drink, clothing, and housing. These are fundamental needs, but they should be met with a sense of simplicity and sufficiency. Going beyond what is necessary can ignite further desires, leading to a cascade of other vices. Possessing more than what is needed is not a good. Possessing a mind that desires only what is needed is a true good.
Hold fast, then, to this sound and wholesome rule of life, that you indulge the body only so far as is needful for good health. The body should be treated more rigorously, that it may not be disobedient to the mind. Eat merely to relieve your hunger, drink merely to quench your thirst, dress merely to keep out the cold, house yourself merely as a protection against personal discomfort. It matters little whether the house be built of turf or of variously coloured imported marble. Understand that a man is sheltered just as well by a thatch as by a roof of gold. Despise everything that useless toil creates as an ornament and an object of beauty, and reflect that nothing except the soul is worthy of wonder. For to the soul, if it be great, naught is great.
Things which are essential to life naturally have their limits, while those that are non-essential often lack a clear endpoint. Engaging in endless quests for wealth, fame, attention, exotic possessions, extensive travel, gourmet delicacies or sensory pleasures can lead to an insatiable cycle of desire. Succumbing to such endless want will clutter one's life with an array of vices, each more demanding and wicked than the last. We must recognize and respect the natural boundaries of our needs, avoiding that limitless chase after the superfluous, which will ultimately block our path to a tranquil mind.
If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich. Nature's wants are slight, the demands of opinion are boundless. Suppose that the property of many millionaires is heaped up in your possession. Assume that fortune carries you far beyond the limits of a private income, decks you with gold, clothes you in purple, and brings you to such a degree of luxury and wealth that you can bury the earth under your marble floors, that you may not only possess, but tread upon, riches. Add statues, paintings, and whatever any art has devised for the satisfaction of luxury. You will only learn from such things to crave still greater. Natural desires are limited, but those which spring from false opinion can have no stopping point. The false has no limits. When you are traveling on a road, there must be an end. But when astray, your wanderings are limitless. Recall your steps, therefore, from idle things, and when you would know whether that which you seek is based upon a natural or upon a misleading desire, consider whether it can stop at any definite point. If you find, after having travelled far, that there is a more distant goal always in view, you may be sure that this condition is contrary to nature.
Take the true measure of things and see if they are really worth their price. We frequently expend our resources, time, energy, and integrity on things we would readily reject if they required us to purchase them with money. Exercise special caution to ensure that none of your pursuits come at the price of your most precious asset, your freedom.
Therefore, with regard to the objects which we pursue and for which we strive with great effort, we should note this truth. Either there is nothing desirable in them, or the undesirable is preponderant. Some objects are superfluous, others are not worth the price we pay for them, but we do not see this clearly, and we regard things as free gifts when they really cost us very dear. Our stupidity may be clearly proved by the fact that we hold that buying refers only to the objects for which we pay cash, and we regard as free gifts the things for which we spend our very selves. These we should refuse to buy if we were compelled to give in payment for them, our houses or some attractive and profitable estate, but we are eager to attain them at the cost of anxiety, of danger, and of lost honor, personal freedom, and time. So true it is that each man regards nothing as cheaper than himself. Let us, therefore, act in all our plans and conduct, just as we are accustomed to act whenever we approach a huckster who has certain wares for sale. Let us see how much we must pay for that which we crave. Very often the things that cost nothing cost us the most heavily. I can show you many objects the quest and acquisition of which have wrested freedom from our hands. We should belong to ourselves, if only these things did not belong to us.
Bear in mind that at your core, you are a being with simple needs that can be fulfilled with basic means. It is an absurdity to expect the entire world to work to cater to your desires, offering a plethora of items that not even 100 nations combined could produce. This was once a critique reserved for the affluent in ancient Rome, but has now become a reality for many in the modern world.
Now is it not madness, Lucilius, for none of us to reflect that he is mortal, or frail, or again that he is but one individual? Look at our kitchens and the cooks who bustle about over so many fires. Is it, think you, for a single belly that all this bustle and preparation of food takes place? Look at the old brands of wine and storehouses, filled with the vintages of many ages. Is it, think you, a single belly that is to receive the stored wine, sealed with the names of so many consuls and gathered from so many vineyards? Look and mark in how many regions men plough the earth and how many thousands of farmers are tilling and digging. Is it, think you, for a single belly that crops are planted in Sicily and Africa? We should be sensible and our wants more reasonable if each of us were to take stock of himself and to measure his bodily needs also, and understand how little he can consume, and for how short a time.
Self-denial. Living in an era of unparalleled comfort and convenience may appear fortunate, but it actually poses a significant challenge to our moral and personal development. In such times, the Stoic practice of deliberately embracing discomfort becomes even more crucial. By choosing discomfort, rejecting convenience, and abstaining from pleasures, we not only steel ourselves against future hardships, but also gain a deeper appreciation for what we have. The ancient Stoics practiced this through various means like underdressing in cold weather, fasting, or sleeping on hard surfaces. Seneca, for instance, was a fan of plunging into freezing aqueducts. While our modern world lacks aqueducts, we can still find ways to practice this philosophy. Consider making a list of things you believe are indispensable and experiment with living without them for a short time. This could range from a day to a week or more, depending on the item. The goal is to prove to yourself that your happiness does not depend on these comforts. This might include foregoing hot showers, air conditioning, coffee, meat, or even your phone. The more tailored the challenge is to your personal comforts, the more effective it will be at dispelling your fears. Left unchecked, our desires will only grow. It is our responsibility to temper them with reason and align them with nature. It is counterintuitive, but there is a unique satisfaction in this self-denial. As you deepen your understanding of what truly constitutes good and evil, there is a profound sense of fulfillment in rejecting what you once mistakenly valued as essential. It feels good to live in accordance with your philosophy of life, demonstrating that pleasure, when mastered, can be a powerful ally rather than a dominating force. On the Philosopher's Mean. In Letter 5 of Letters from a Stoic, on the Philosopher's Mean, Seneca delves into the concept of moderation and its application in daily life. He explores how we should act among others while progressing on the path to wisdom. This letter offers insights into balancing the pursuit of philosophical ideals with the practicalities of societal interactions.
I commend you and rejoice in the fact that you are persistent in your studies and that, putting all else aside, you make it each day your endeavor to become a better man. I do not merely exhort you to keep at it. I actually beg you to do so. I warn you, however, not to act after the fashion of those who desire to be conspicuous rather than to improve, by doing things which will rouse comment as regards your dress or general way of living. Repellent attire, unkempt hair, slovenly beard, open scorn of silver dishes, a couch on the bare earth, and any other perverted forms of self-display are to be avoided. The mere name of philosophy, however quietly pursued, is an object of sufficient scorn. And what would happen if we should begin to separate ourselves from the customs of our fellow men? Inwardly, we ought to be different in all respects, but our exterior should conform to society. Do not wear too fine, nor yet too frowsy a toga. One needs no silver plate, encrusted and embossed in solid gold, but we should not believe the lack of silver and gold to be proof of the simple life. Let us try to maintain a higher standard of life than that of the multitude, but not a contrary standard. Otherwise, we shall frighten away and repel the very persons whom we are trying to improve. We also bring it about that they are unwilling to imitate us in anything, because they are afraid lest they might be compelled to imitate us in everything. The first thing which philosophy undertakes to give is fellow feeling with all men, in other words, sympathy and sociability. We part company with our promise if we are unlike other men. We must see to it that the means by which we wish to draw admiration be not absurd and odious. Our motto, as you know, is live according to nature, but it is quite contrary to nature to torture the body, to hate unlaboured elegance, to be dirty on purpose, to eat food that is not only plain but disgusting and forbidding. Just as it is a sign of luxury to seek out dainties, so it is madness to avoid that which is customary and can be purchased at no great price. Philosophy calls for plain living, but not for penance, and we may perfectly well be plain and neat at the same time. This is the mean of which I approve. Our life should observe a happy medium between the ways of a sage and the ways of the world at large. All men should admire it, but they should understand it also.
We should practice moderation in our behavior to avoid elevating ourselves or deterring others from the study of philosophy. However, this moderation does not extend to our pursuit of virtue and mental well-being. Stoicism teaches that a truly happy life is achieved solely through virtue, without diluting it with even a hint of greed, lust, anger, ambition, or reliance on good fortune. While fully embodying this ideal may be beyond our reach, striving for it ensures that we do not prematurely settle for less or justify minor vices as rewards for our virtuous actions.
Just as no animal, whether wild or tamed and gentle, obeys reason, since nature made it deaf to advice, so the passions do not follow or listen, however slight they are. Tigers and lions never put off their wildness. They sometimes moderate it, and then, when you are least prepared, their softened fierceness is roused to madness. Vices are never genuinely tamed. Again, if reason prevails, the passions will not even get a start. But if they get underway against the will of reason, they will maintain themselves against the will of reason. For it is easier to stop them in the beginning than to control them when they gather force. This halfway ground is accordingly misleading and useless. It is to be regarded just as the declaration that we ought to be moderately insane or moderately ill. Virtue alone possesses moderation. The evils that afflict the mind do not admit of moderation.
Stoic practice. Is this the condition that I feared?
I am so firmly determined, however, to test the constancy of your mind, that drawing from the teachings of great men, I shall give you also a lesson. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" It is precisely in times of immunity from care that the soul should toughen itself beforehand for occasions of greater stress, and it is, while fortune is kind, that it should fortify itself against her violence. In days of peace the soldier performs manoeuvres, throws up earthworks with no enemy in sight, and wearies himself by gratuitous toil, in order that he may be equal to unavoidable toil. If you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes. Such is the course which those men have followed, who, in their imitation of poverty, have every month come almost to want, that they might never recoil from what they had so often rehearsed. You need not suppose that I mean meals like Timons or paupers' huts, or any other device which luxurious millionaires use to beguile the tedium of their lives. Let the pallet be a real one, and the coarse cloak. Let the bread be hard and grimy. Endure all this for 3 or 4 days at a time, sometimes for more, so that it may be a test of yourself instead of a mere hobby. Then, I assure you, my dear Lucilius, you will leap for joy when filled with a pennyworth of food, and you will understand that a man's peace of mind does not depend upon fortune, for even when angry, she grants enough for our needs.
This is a specific self-denial practice that Seneca prescribes to free us from the fear of poverty. Every month, or every few months, dedicate 3 to 4 days to living with minimal financial means. During these days, prepare the most basic meals, consuming only what is necessary for sustenance. Avoid any form of paid entertainment or leisure activities. Adopt a simple dress code, minimize travel, and reduce your overall consumption of resources. The objective is to experience life as though fortune has cast you into poverty, helping you realize that there is nothing to dread in such a situation. This practice not only fosters gratitude for your usual lifestyle, but also diminishes the power material possessions have over you. Additionally, undertaking this exercise as a communal activity or with a group can enhance its impact and provide mutual support. Stoic practice. Learn to hate your vices.
And do you know why we have not the power to attain this Stoic ideal? It is because we refuse to believe in our power. Nay, of a surety, there is something else which plays a part. It is because we are in love with our vices. We uphold them and prefer to make excuses for them rather than shake them off. We mortals have been endowed with sufficient strength by nature. If only we use this strength, if only we concentrate our powers and rouse them all to help us, or at least not to hinder us. The reason is unwillingness, the excuse, inability.
Making profound positive changes to our thoughts and actions is difficult, but certainly within our capabilities. The reason we do not immediately abandon our vices and run to virtue is that, despite what we may claim, we love our vices. It is a twisted kind of love, like being in an abusive relationship. We keep them around because we think we deserve the suffering or do not believe we could face the world without them. We must reclaim our freedom and courageously prove to ourselves that we can rise above them.
There is nothing, Lucilius, to hinder you from entertaining good hopes about us just because we are even now in the grip of evil, or because we have long been possessed thereby. There is no man to whom a good mind comes before an evil one. It is the evil mind that gets first hold on all of us. Learning virtue means unlearning vice. We should therefore proceed to the task of freeing ourselves from faults with all the more courage because, when once committed to us, the good is an everlasting possession. Virtue is not unlearnt. But although virtues, when admitted, cannot depart and are easy to guard, yet the first steps in the approach to them are toilsome, because it is characteristic of a weak and diseased mind to fear that which is unfamiliar. The mind must therefore be forced to make a beginning. From then on, the medicine is not bitter, for just as soon as it is curing us, it begins to give pleasure. One enjoys other cures only after health is restored, but a draught of philosophy is at the same moment wholesome and pleasant.
We need a structured approach to make this beginning and learn to despise our vices. The process looks something like the following, and can be a journaling or a thought exercise. Try to be as detailed as you can in your examination. Select one of your vices to focus on. Explain why you love it. Reflect on what this vice has cost you, both tangibly and intangibly. Consider the harmful actions you engage in to sustain this vice. Think about the opportunities and growth it has prevented. Imagine how much more fulfilling your life could be if you replaced this vice with virtue. For instance, consider an excessive attachment to alcohol. It might offer temporary solace or social confidence, but at the expense of your health and independence. It can become a crutch for facing life's challenges, diminishing your resilience. This habit not only consumes your finances and time, but also potentially leads to deceitful behavior with loved ones. Imagine instead drawing strength from within and the freedom that comes with it. Life, grounded in virtue, would be significantly better. Often, we only superficially acknowledge our vices without fully understanding their roots and impacts. Deep reflection is crucial for behavioral change. This process keeps our vices and their triggers at the forefront of our minds, enhancing our awareness and ability to resist them in the moment. By consistently applying this practice, we can gradually reshape our character towards wisdom. Remember, our attention to specific issues is fleeting, lasting only a few days. Therefore, it is essential to repeatedly focus on the same vices. We tend to forget what we prefer not to think about. Persist in this practice until virtue becomes your natural response and habitual way of life, replacing your current bad habits.